السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. My students, أهلا بيكم طبعا macroeconomics course for our students in the first grade, English section, Faculty of Commerce. Today we have chapter 24. The title of this chapter called Government and Fiscal Policy. Before starting, I have to remind you about some specific facts regarding to the previous chapters. In the previous chapters, we would like to determine the equilibrium point in good and surplus market. So, according to this kind of equilibrium point, we have to making some intersection between aggregate demand and aggregate supply. Or, as we already did in the previous lecture, we have to making some intersection between total output curve and aggregate expenditure curve. In the previous section also, we just divided our economy into two sectors. The first one called household, making consumption as a first part of total expenditure. Another sector called firms, and the firm going to spend some specific money called investment. So the main equilibrium equation here is making equity between total output as a y and also total expenditure as a summation of C plus I. C plus I, C as a consumption, I as investment. Today we have to add another sector, which is called government. Before starting, I have to show you the role of the government in economy. Government intervenes the market to affect the economic behavior. So, if we have inflation, for example, meaning that the price level rising over the time, the government would like to intervene the market to just making some price stability or reduce price level. The government has two policies. The first one called fiscal policy, another one called monetary policy. Fiscal policy meaning that we are going to use government spending and the taxation policy to affect the economic behavior. For example, if the government, if the economy suffering from inflation, meaning that the aggregate demand exceeds the aggregate supply. The government in this case intervenes the market to decrease government spending as a main part of total expenditure. And at the same time, the government also can raise the tax rate. If the tax rate increase, meaning that total income received by household will be decreased, and in this case we can expect consumption decrease as a main part also of total expenditure. Finally, we can just decrease or reduce the total expenditure and affect the price level. So, according to this kind of explanation, we can call the fiscal policy using two tools by the government expenditure and also tax policies. But we have another policy. We are not going to concentrate in this kind of policy in this chapter, which is called monetary policy. Monetary policy meaning that central bank intervenes the market to affect the economic behavior or to fight inflation or recession by using money supply. And we, as we already know, money supply affects the interest rate, meaning that the main tools for monetary policy using by the central bank are called money supply and interest rate, but we are going to concentrate on fiscal policy in this chapter. Okay, government and the economy. Government, if we just would like to construct the new project in Egypt, for example, a new college, and the government finances this kind of college, public college or public school. And in this case, we call this money spending for constructed the new building for new college is government expenditure. If the government is going to finance some transaction, like for example, purchasing some goods and services from the market, some equipment, some tables, data show, and so on for this kind of college. We called also these things are examples of government purchasing. And the government also intervenes the market to raise taxes or decrease taxes. And also this is some example of intervention the market by the government. But how could government affect the total income received by household when the government intervenes the market by using taxes? I mean, for example, everyone working in private sector or maybe in public sector must pay taxes, and the government apply taxes for all persons who are entitled in our economy. In this case, you have to pay taxes, meaning that your total income will be decreased by the amount of taxes, and this amount at your hand after paying taxes called YD. YD here as disposable income, and its disposable income in this case called YD equal Y as a total income before taxes minus T. In this case, we can expect that the person or household going to divide YD between two variables, consumption and saving, as we did before. Okay, here we have circle flow diagrams. Circle flow diagrams here consists of three sectors. The first one called firms, another one government, last one household. If you remember in chapter 21, we already explained the economy consists of two sectors without government. And we called that firm starting to demand some inputs from household and just transfer money for rent, the inputs from household to inputs. When we transfer money from firms to household, a part of this kind of money going to the government as tax. Another part going to the household, and this is called disposable income, divided between two variables. The first one, consumption, another one, saving. Consumption going into the market or good and service market as a part of the aggregate expenditure, C. Another variable going to financial market or bank system. Bank system, as already know, intermediate between savers and investors. When we collect this kind of money in bank system, two sectors going to the bank to finance their transactions. Government borrowing from the bank to finance some transactions like investment or government expenditure. And this another part which is called government expenditure. At the same time, firms going to also borrowing money from the bank to finance their transaction or their investment. And this is the last second item in aggregate expenditure called aggregate expenditure, meaning that aggregate expenditure equal C plus I plus G. C as consumption, I as investment, G as government expenditure. Here, before starting to explain the equilibrium point according to three sectors, I have to remind you about the equilibrium point in two sectors. In two sectors, we have Y. We have Y equal C plus S. Sorry, here's Y. Y as total income equal C consumption plus S as a saving. At the same time, if we have two sectors, we have also the total output Y equal C as a consumption plus investment. We have a two equation right now. If we'd like to determine the aggregate expenditure, in this case, here, this is aggregate expenditure according to two sectors, making equity between Y as a total output and also aggregate expenditure here. In this case, we can just determine two equilibrium point. Y must be equal aggregate expenditure, or I equal S. And this is the two equilibrium point according to economy consists of two sectors. Let's return back to our chapter right now to determine the equilibrium point in three sectors. Okay. Here we have YD. YD has disposable income equal C plus S. But right now we have new variables, which is called tax, if the government add to our economy. In this case, Y minus D equals C plus S. Just taking T from the left side to the right side. In this case, we have Y equals C plus S plus T. But aggregate expenditure also consists of three items here: C plus I plus G. If we would like to determine the equilibrium point, here we have to make an equity between Y and aggregate expenditure اللي هي موجودة هنا AE. C like C here. And in this case, we can just rearrange this kind of two equations with each other to just determine another equation for equilibrium point, as we can see later on. Okay, let's discuss just some things we already did in the previous section. But before starting to explain the consumption function according to three sectors, we have some concepts. Some people get confused when we talking about budget. What does the budget mean? Any budget, doesn't matter if you are working in private sector or public sector, consists of two sides. The first one called expenditure, another one called revenue. And in this case, according to our explanation, we can just going to call budget for the government. But government budget consists of two items or two sides. First one, government expenditure. Another one, T. T as a total revenue by the government, because the main source of government revenue coming from tax. And in this case, G minus T. Sometimes we have the result of G minus T can be minus, negative, or zero. If G minus T equal zero, meaning that we have budget balance, meaning that the total expenditure by the government equal to the tax. If G minus T here is minus, meaning that the total expenditure, total government expenditure, more than total revenue, and we can expect to have deficit in government budget. If G minus T is positive, in this case we can expect the total revenue more than total expenditure, and we can call we have a surplus in government budget. Right now we can add what's called government expenditure or government sector to our economy. Okay, I have also to remind you about the consumption function. Consumption function C was equal A as a fixed amount of consumption, even if your income equal zero, plus B marginal propensity to consume or through consumption function, Y as a total income, meaning that we have both the relationship between C and Y, and it's it's simple and logic at the same times. If your income increase, your consumption will be increase. Okay, according to three sectors right now, or if we add a government sector, C here as a consumption must be equal at the same times A as fixed consumption when your income equals zero, plus B that we have to open our parentheses right now, Y minus T. But we add a government in this case, and this is called consumption function according to three sectors. According to three sectors, and let's return to our C as a consumption equal A plus B Y minus T in this case. Plan investment. The government can affect investment behavior through its tax treatment of depreciation and other tax policy. Plan investment depends on the interest rate, because of which we can continue to assume are fixed for the purpose of this chapter. Determination of equilibrium point. Here we have the main equation. The main equation for equilibrium point, Y. Total output must be equal aggregate expenditure. Aggregate expenditure consists of C plus I plus J. And we have this kind of schedule right now, and we would like to determine the equilibrium point according to this schedule. We have total output, and we have T as a tax. And in this case, we can just also get what's called disposable income, because YD equal Y minus T, meaning that we have to detect T from Y, and in this case, we will get YD. Consumption function, C equal 100 plus 0.75 YD. And we can explain the consumption function as 100 fixed consumption, even if your income equal 0. 0.75 as a marginal probability to consume, meaning that if your income increase by 100, your consumption will increase by $75. YD is disposable income. Saving, and also we can just get saving by apply this kind of equation, YD minus T. Was, if you remember, we have Y equal C plus S, and in this case we can just also get in S by just going to subtract C from Y. Plan investment is fixed, as we already know, and we have a government purchase. We have to stop here at this area. Most of this kind of data are given, and we would like to determine the equilibrium point. Equilibrium point equation is Y equal C plus I plus J, and we have to sum C as a consumption, I as investment, J as government expenditure. In this case, we will get what's called aggregate expenditure. And here we have aggregate expenditure. Here we have to determine the equilibrium point. We have for the first one here, first level of output or income, 300 pounds as total income, but total expenditure equal 450. Meaning that total output more than total expenditure. In this case, we can expect it if total output more than total expenditure, or by another way, total supply more than total demand, or aggregate supply more than aggregate demand. In this case, we can expect it that most of firms going to withdraw from inventory to finance or to face a higher demand in this case. And you can expect that inventory will be decreased. If inventory decrease, this situation encourage firms to invest more. And in this case, we can expect that total output will be increased. Total income will be increased to 500. But at the same time, we still have some higher of aggregate demand or total expenditure. 600 more than 500, and inventory continue to decrease according to this equilibrium between aggregate expenditure and total output. And this situation also encourages the producer to produce more. If we just going further here to 1,300 at this level, total output 1,300, total expenditure or get expenditure 1,200. In this case, we have another situation. Total output more than total expenditure. Aggregate supply more than aggregate demand, meaning that most of people going to demand less than output available in the market, and you can expect that inventory will be increased. If inventory increase, most of the producer does not have more incentives to increase their production, and in this case they are going to decrease their production, and in this case we can expect that the output will be decreased. Output decrease until this kind of point, 900. At the 900 as a total output, we have also 900 as total expenditure. In this case, we have some equilibrium point between total output and the total expenditure. Inventory in this case equal 0, and we have equilibrium point. Regarding this kind of schedule right now, we can just conclude some facts here. If total output more than total expenditure, inventory will be decreased, and at the same time output increase. If total output or total income more than total expenditure or net expenditure, we can expect that inventory will be increased, but at the same time output will be decreased. At the equilibrium point, total output equal total expenditure, inventory must be equal 0, and this is called the equilibrium point. And this is equilibrium point according to schedule here, and we can also going to making this kind of things by another way. Okay, we can determine what's called right now the equilibrium point according to graph. Okay, we can use another or maybe whiteboards to explain everything here. Okay. We have this curve here. Okay, and this is total expenditure, aggregate expenditure, and we have Y here. And this is 45-degree line. Okay, right now we're starting from the beginning of beginning of our market. We can just assume we have just only one item of total expenditure, which is called consumption. Consumption is starting from here, and this is called consumption point. As a C. And if we add investment, the consumption function shift to up by this way. And this C plus R. Right now we would like to add the government. If we add the government, meaning that the total expenditure consists of 3 items. C plus I plus J. According to adding the government expenditure, we can expect the total expenditure or aggregate expenditure function shift again once again to up. C plus I plus G. Okay, and this is the equilibrium point in this case, according to three sector here. Okay, let's return back to our slides to show you how could we determine the equilibrium point according to three sectors. Here, for example, we have a 45-degree line, and this black line here, a 45-degree line, which is called total output or aggregate supply line. C as a consumption. Okay, and here we add two items here, I plus J, meaning that this kind of line represented the aggregate expenditure if we have three sectors. And my question right now, according to this kind of diagrams, what is the fixed consumption? If you just think a little bit, you can call it a fixed consumption. Yes, that's right. It's 25 because it's a consumption function. Starting from 25, meaning that 25 as a fixed consumption if your income equal 0. My second question, if you just follow me and understanding everything regarding this kind of chapter and the previous chapter, what are the total value of investment and aggregate expenditure and the government expenditure? Yes, of course, it's 200 because we just starting the total expenditure according to three sector from 225. 225 meaning that is the total expenditure. If fixed consumption equal 25, meaning that the summation of investment and aggregate expenditure and the government expenditure equal 200. Okay. According to intersection between two lines here, aggregate supply or total output and aggregate expenditure, we can determine the equilibrium point at a level of 900. 900 as total expenditure, 900 as a total income. Before the intersection point, at this point, we can just notice that total expenditure more than total output. According to this kind of situation, most of the producers going to increase their production because total demand more than the total supply. This situation encourage most of the producers to produce more because they have higher demand in the market. Okay, and you can expect that inventory in this case will be decreased until reaching to this final point. After the intersection point, if we have here total output more than total expenditure, by the same way, we can expect that inventory increase, discourage most of the producer to produce more, going to decreasing their production and return back on this line to the intersection point. And according to this kind of situation, we can determine the equilibrium point by graphic way, meaning that we can just confirm the or making some conclusion regarding the equilibrium point by two ways, using schedule and using graph. And I think we have to also just prove the evidence or making some evidence to get the equation for equilibrium point regarding to our previous explanation. Okay, S plus T equal I plus G. Right now, I have to also remind you about the previous equilibrium equation according to existence of only two sectors in our market. The main equilibrium point was Y equal C plus I, or I equal S. This is a situation if we have just only two sectors. But right now, we have three sectors. Y equals C plus I plus J, and and the total output Y must be Y equals C plus S plus T, and aggregate expenditure C plus I plus J. According to the new equation, S plus T must be equal I plus J, as we did in the beginning of this kind of lecture. Aggregate expenditure C plus I plus J, and by definition Y equals C plus S plus T. Taking the two equations with each other right now, C is C, and in this case we can just making some quality between I plus J equal S plus T, and this is a new condition of equilibrium point. If one of the main condition happening, the second one must be exist, meaning that if Y equal aggregate expenditure, in this case we can call that the second equation must be confirmed. S plus T should be or must be equal I plus J. Okay, going to the next slide. Policy, physical policy at work, multiplier effect. At this point, we are assuming that the government controls G and T. In this section, we will review three multipliers: government spending multipliers, tax multipliers, balanced budget multiplier. Government spending multiplier. What is a multiplier mean? I mean, I have to just explain this point in more details. If the government bring to spend 100 pounds in the market as a wage for some labor, if just one person taking this kind of 100 pounds from the government, divide the total amount of income between consumption and saving. Assume right now, for example, the person going to spend 80% from his income to finance his transactions on consumption. He is going to just buying the stuff from another person, and another person received 80% from 100, meaning that 80 pounds transferred to another person, meaning that the income for the other person increased by 80 pounds. If the another second person going to divide his income between two variables, consumption and saving, assuming also at the same time the second person just consume 64 pounds from 80 pounds to buy some good and service from the third person, meaning that the third person income increased by 64, and so on. And you can expect it in this case. If the government spend 100 pounds as investments, the total income, summation of the total income for all people who are making some transaction between each others will be increased than 100. And in this case, we can expect the total income multiplied by some specific amount than the total investment. So right now, total investment by the government equal 100, but the total income by all people who receive this kind of income equal 500. We call the multiplier equal 5. Meaning that multiplier measures the total amount of income increasing according to the initial investment, or change in total income over change of total investment. And this is called the government spending multiplier. But let us right now going to explain the total the multiplier in more details. Government spending multiplier equal 1 divided by MBS, or 1 divided by 1 minus MBC. MBS plus MBC, as you already know, equal 1. And in this case, we can just rearrange this kind of equation once again. 1 divided by 1 minus MBC. C. MBS, marginal probability saving. And we can expect the relation between government multiplier and MBS is negative relationship. If MBS increase, multiplier value will be decrease, and so on. And we also can making some relationship between MBC and the government multiplier. And we have, of course, positive relationship because we have negative sign here. And the relation between MBC and the government multiplier is positive. So, according to our explanation, government spending multiplies the ratio of change in the equilibrium level of output to a change in government spending. Okay, right now we have total output as we did in a previous example: net taxes, disposable income, consumption, saving, planned investment, government purchase, and government and aggregate expenditure. Okay, we can stop here right now. Right now, the main difference between this kind of schedule and another schedule is government purchase. If you remember, government purchase and the last example or the last schedule was 100, but right now is 150. And we would like to just show you what is the effect of increasing government expenditure on total income equilibrium point. Okay, we can get the equilibrium point, or we can just explain the equilibrium point by the old way, just going to sum consumption, investment, and the government expenditure to get aggregate expenditure, and then making some comparison between total output and total expenditure. Here 300, 500, meaning that aggregate expenditure more than total output, inventory decrease, output will be increased, and so on, until getting this kind of point right now. Here it's 1,100, and here 1,100, and this is the equilibrium point. If you remember, the old equilibrium point was 900. It was 900, I guess, yes. Meaning that the new equilibrium point right now is 1,100. The total equilibrium point increased by 200. The additional amount of income increased by £2 as a result of increasing the government expenditure by £50. In this case, we can expect it according to multiplier effect. If government increase investment, total income will be increased by some specific amount according to multiplier value. £50 increasing in government expenditure increase total output or total expenditure by 200. In this case, we can expect it, the multiplier value equal 4. How could we get that? It's very easy. Just change in total income divided by change in investment. And in this case, we can expect the change in total income equal 200. The difference between 900 as an old equilibrium point before increasing government expenditure and 1,100 as a new equilibrium point. And this 200 is the difference between 900, 1,100 equal 200. Divided by 50 as a total difference between 100 as an initial amount of government expenditure and the previous schedule, and new government expenditure, which is equal 150, meaning that we have to divide 200 divided by 550, sorry, and in this case we will get 4 as a total, as a value of multiplier. We can also just count the multiplier value by another way. Okay, right, you are right. Here we have C. C equal 100 plus 0.75 YD. And as we already know, multiplier equal 1 divided by 1 minus MBC. In this case, we can just apply this kind of equation. MBC here is 0.75, and we can just call 1 minus 0.75, meaning that multiplier equal 4. Okay, meaning that we can just calculate the multiplier by 2 ways. The first one, change in income divided by change in investment, or according to the multiplier equation, which is equal 1 divided by 1 minus MBC. Okay, that's just everything here, and we go to the next slides. We can also show you how could we determine the equilibrium point according to a new level of government expenditure. We have here 45-degree line as a total supply or total output, and we have the initial aggregate expenditure here, equilibrium point at 900 as we did before. According to the new level of aggregate expenditure, we can increase, if we increase the government expenditure by 50, change in government expenditure equal 50. And in this situation, of course, shift the aggregate expenditure function to up, starting from 275. The difference between 225 and 275 is change in government expenditure, and we will get new equilibrium point. New equilibrium point, difference between new equilibrium point here and this horizontal line called change in Y. 900 minus 1100 and equal 200. And change in total aggregate expenditure and change in total expenditure 200 here. But change in G as a government expenditure equal 50. And in this case, we can just taking the difference between initial equilibrium point or old equilibrium point is Y, and the new equilibrium point equal 200 divided by 50, which is equal 4, and this is the value of multiplier. Okay, tax multiplier. I think we have to stop here for today, and this is the first chapter recording to just send it direct to you by online lectures, and I hope that it's very useful for you. And if you have any comments or questions, just you can ask me on my webpage, official webpage. Okay, thank you for today, and see you in the next lecture. Thank you. Bye-bye.